special extended service to here on weekends or something. Let's go back to that junction we went right at. This is the area of Sodor that Toby explored in Toby's discovery. I like to think Thomas's branch was actually a link to a huge, now defunct, mining network in the heart of Sodor. The stone quarry, the gold mine, the lead mine, etc. And the branch provided a means of getting it all to the harbor.
Okay, we're in Sodor. So we just finished up
these
Thomas's
lines
line.
If we go left at the junction, the line climbs north into the mountains.
We just finished Thomas's
If we
branch
go
line.
right at the next junction, the line terminates at the old gold mine, which was also serviced by the Mid-Sodor Railway. More on that in a bit. It was here that Toby found Bertram. The area was reopened and turned into a tourist exhibit. Since it is accessed by only Thomas's branch line, Thomas and Toby helped with the reconstruction. Bertram stays here and runs back and forth here on a section of track giving rides to visitors, with no actual link to the Scarlet Railway, hence why we don't see him again. If we go left at the junction, the line will continue to climb north until we reach the ruins of Ulfstead Castle. Yeah, this is different to the CGI one. Different cannons. This was also reopened to tourism along with the gold mine. And
Castle's
that,
not going to be...
is the entirety of Thomas's branch line. So let's travel all the way back to Tidmouth now and talk about Duck's branch line, aka the Little Western.
Duck's line, okay.
If you want beach and sun, then the Little Western is the place to come to. Just like in the books, the Little Western starts at Tidmouth, as seen in Season 3. Just north of the station is the Tidmouth...
Which, I don't understand why I made it red. But... well, these are all going to be roads, right? Yeah. Tidmouth Tunnel. I thought it was... Actually, I can't believe how late it is. It's only like 4... It's only 4:40 right now. I thought it was later than that. I thought it was already 7 o'clock. It was only 4:40, so we're going to be able to finish this up today.
Tidmouth Tunnel, which is beside a lake. On the other side is the
Tidmouth Halt. H. I wish I was an asshole.
Sunshiny Coast. Tidmouth Halt is here, as well as a small yard and shed for goods. The station is located between two tunnels in this open gap between cliffs. On the other side of the second tunnel is the run past the beach. A fun rock tunnel is here, as is this gorgeous set. This is one of my favorite sets in the series. It just looks like a painting. We pass by the beach with the lighthouse, where Bulstrode currently resides, and round the bend to...
Okay. I mean, hey guys, Tyler here. Hey guys, how would you like it if I actually told you guys that I'm thinking about making a map? I'm going to be using all these cities and all the 7 people's map, person using the map
to
for Ridge.
This is the middle station of the line. After Haltraw, the line starts to curve inward away from the sea towards Arlesburg. And I'm going to be a bit daring here.
I don't understand that. We don't understand. That dollar crap.
Here and say that this little station in Season 7 is Arlesburg. I don't know what the wiki calls it.
I'm going to use this as well. Okay, Rolf's Castle. I'm going to add that. You're actually going to use these other... Why not? I mean, some of these things in Wiki make more sense to me.
They call it Sudbury or something?
Rolf's Castle.
It makes sense as a station on Duck's line. We never actually see a station called Arlesburg in the show. And this is a model series map, so the Arlesdale Railway isn't canon to it.
Arlesdale?
So, good. This is Arlesburg. Since the station only has one platform on a siding, I like to think Arlesburg is a goods-only station for goods coming in from the harbor, similar to Tory Wreck on Thomas's line. The line runs along the river and above the town here. It then crosses over the River Arl and past the junction for the Arlesburg harbor, before curving east again and terminating at Callan.
If they go to Arlesburg,
Station Oliver tore Scruffy in half. Callan is a weird one. It's very clearly based on Arlesburg West in the books, and it also is very clearly on Duck's line. So as far as I'm concerned, they're the same.
so Duck and Oliver run that
Callan
line.
is just a bit further north. This is also a transfer station for services on Toby's old railway, which I will get into in a bit. There's a goods yard here at Callan, and a turntable. Oliver's shed is also here. The line does continue from Callan on a goods line up to Callan Castle, aka Castle Lock. Most maps place Callan Castle in the north of Sodor near Peel Godric, and I disagree with that. It's called Callan Castle, so it's obviously near Callan. And since Callan is the Arlesburg West stand-in, then they both must be on the coast. There's a loop here at the castle that crosses a causeway. Now that's the end of Duck's line. However, the tracks don't end here. Let's keep venturing north and explore the coastal run, aka Arthur's Line.
We're on Callahan
Here's
Harbor.
what you need to know about Chromebooks. Chromebooks are powerfully simple laptops. Powerful to handle what's important to you.
I never seen Arthur's Line, so I'm
Okay,
excluding
so
this.
now this is a huge change I recently made to the map. Arthur's Line is the one that runs to the fishing village. And like the Sam Wilkinson map, I originally had that as the branch to Normanby. However, I just wasn't happy with it. The fishing village just didn't feel right on that side of the island. In Season 5, the engines are consistently shown traveling along the Little Western to get to it. And not to mention the plethora of beach stations that there are on the west side of Sodor. The majority of times you see engines traveling to a beach station, they're coming from the south with the beach on the west side. And I didn't want to just throw a bunch of
I'll add Ellsbridge Harbor real quick so I don't have to worry about it. H. AR. ARB. ARB. OUR. OUR. Okay.
stations on the Little Western. But as I was putting this video together, I had a coming to Jesus moment, and it hit me. Suddenly, everything made sense. The fishing village in the classic series is in Hartwick. Okay, so here's my headcanon. So the fishing village line is a fairly recent development. In Season 3, they finished construction on Duck's Line, and that opened with services to Callan. And I didn't want to just throw a bunch of stations on the Little Western. But as I was putting this video together, I had a coming to Jesus moment, and it hit me. Suddenly, everything made sense. The fishing village in the classic series is in Hartwick. Okay.
Hardwick.
Okay, so here's my headcanon. So the fishing village line is a fairly recent development. In Season 3, they finished construction on Duck's Line, and that opened with services to Callan. However, work continued up the coast. By Season 5, they had reached the fishing village at Hartwick. However, the low number of trains due out didn't really demand its own engine, so available engines would just be sent up when a train was due. However, by the time of Season 7, the line to the fishing village had become so busy that it demanded its own engine. Cue Arthur. The line continues from Callan and works its way back up the coast. The first station is what I call Church, aka where Percy and
Church.
Season 5, they had reached the fishing village at Hartwick. However, the low number of trains due out didn't really demand its own engine, so available engines would just be sent up when a train was due. However, by the time of season 7, the line to the fishing village had become so busy that it demanded its own engine. Cue Arthur. The line continues from Callan and works its way back up the coast.
Church
The
station.
first station is what I call church, aka where Percy and Thomas brought the good luck package to Mrs. Kindly's daughter's wedding. The line leaves the road as the track continues along the coastline. It passes a second lighthouse. Along this stretch is the track with the pier rail Thomas fell off coming from the fishing village. The final and most northern station on Sodor is Hartwick, and this is the station that Toby ventured to in special attraction. Every year Hartwick has a big town festival. Hartwick is a fishing town, so naturally it's the home of the fishing village. The line ends here. Arthur collects trucks of fish from here and runs them to the big harbors like Knapford and Brandon, where the big ships depart. There's also a shed here that I like to think he stays at. So now, let's go back down to Arlesburg
Tonight.
Harbor and talk about Toby's old railway.
Okay, Toby's old railway is a nice railway.
In the TV series, Toby's old railway was on Sodor. This is evidenced by the station names Lower Arlesburg and Arlesdale End. It's also directly referenced in the song. My guess is that the season 1 crew misread that 70s map and confused the Arlesdale Railway for a separate standard gauge one, and just said, fuck it, this is where Toby worked. It was a standard gauge railway, but separate from the Northwestern. Toby's old line serviced Arlesburg Harbor, and he would traverse goods to and from it and the inland farms and towns. When Duck's branch line was being constructed, the old tracks were repurposed and connected to the Little Western. We never actually see Arlesburg Harbor in the model series. A lot of people say the harbor in All at Sea is Arlesburg, but I disagree. That's just Brenda. Arlesburg Harbor was never seen in the show until the CGI series, and as I already stated, it's a different canon to the classic series. The line started at the harbor and traveled along the river Arl. It passes by what is now Toby's windmill, crosses over the river via a rickety old bridge, and stops at Lower Arl.
If they don't know, won't hurt them, and listen to me. I might use the bridge. I might use that island map. Maybe I'll do that.
Arlesburg. It was here Topham met Toby for the first time. The river curls away from the line as the line starts to ascend. It passes by
McColl Street. McColl Farm. We'll just call it McColl Street. I'm not gonna use McColl Farm.
by McColl Farm. McColl Farm was only seen once in the classic series, of which it was stated to be on Toby's old line.
My old branch line runs out there, sir. Remember?
Now I know that's going to be controversial since McColl Farm is so associated with Thomas's line in later seasons, but if that's the case, that means Toby's old railway would have connected to Thomas's line, which is just so dumb to me, and it creates so many continuity issues with season 1. So, screw it. It's on Toby's line. The line continues up the mountain until it reaches the little village in Toby and the Flood. This is the middle station on the line, and it has a passing loop. I wasn't sure, but if that's the case, that means Toby's old railway would have connected to Thomas.
M. ATA.
Thomas's line, which is just so dumb to me, and it creates so many continuity issues with season 1. So, screw it. It's on Toby's line. The line continues up the mountain until it reaches the little village in Toby and the Flood. This is the middle station on the line, and it has a passing loop. I wasn't sure what to name this village, so I just pulled from Audrey's map of the Arlesdale and called it Marthwaite. The line crosses the
Okay,
wooden
Marthwaite.
bridge at the end of the village that floated away in the flood, and then starts to curl as it climbs up the mountains. Through these mountains, we pass the ruins of Castle Arl. We then come to the Great Dam. The dam holds the water of one of the big lakes up here. After the dam is this mountain village station.
Alright.
He calls it Ballyhoo, and I have no idea why. The only episode it appears in specifically says it's on Toby's line.
It's needed for the village feast on Toby's branch line.
I decided to call it Arlesdale.
We're not going to... No. I'm not going to put Arlesdale in.
As we have an Arlesdale end, but no regular Arlesdale. After that line crosses a trestle bridge and weaves around another lake. The line finally halts at Arlesdale End, where Toby's shed is located. After the line closed in Season 1, Topham bought Toby, and this little line fell into disrepair. It wasn't until Season 5, when Oliver, traveling from Callan, was accidentally switched onto this line and crashed into Toby's old shed, that Topham considered reopening it. Off-screen at some point, Topham bought the line and reopened it, and Toby was relocated to his old stomping grounds. From Season 5 onwards, it seems Toby stays in his old shed at Arlesdale End instead of Tidmouth. When the line was reopened, the service was extended to the nearest station at Callan, as we see in Toby Had a Little Lamb. So now that we have the whole west of Sodor covered, let's transition to the south and take a look at Edward's branch line.
Okay.
I have to say, Edward's line in the show is the most consistent with Audrey's vision, and was the easiest to piece together. Gotta love that Season 2 consistency. So naturally, Edward's line branches at Wellsworth. As stated in the iOS book, Edward's service actually begins at Tidmouth, hence why he sleeps there. In the TV series, it actually starts at Knapford, as per Wrong Road and Edward's exploit. It runs along the main line, stopping at all the local stops until it reaches Wellsworth. Then he carries on down the branch to Brendan. The junction for the branch is west of the station and curls south. Nearby is the Vicar of Wellsworth's orchard, where Trevor lives. The ruins of Sudbury Castle mark the beginning of Sudbury. Croc's scrapyard is
Croc Street? Croc Street, yeah. Croc Street. Croc Street.
here, where Edward collects scrap on occasion and then is taken up to peel Godric. More on that in a bit. The first station, as seen in Birdie's Chase, is Lower Sudbury.
Lower Sudbury. Town of Lower Sudbury.
I have no idea why Sudbury has a Lower Sudbury and not a regular Sudbury, but whatever. It was here Birdie missed Edward and where Percy ran away to. After Lower Sudbury, the line merges into a single track. The line climbs and crosses over the road via this girder bridge, and then rolls down the hill into Upper Brent. This station is Upper Brendan, not Hackenbeck as some others have said, as confirmed by Tom's Props on Twitter. Apparently the model crew made station signs for this model, but just never applied them. I don't know why. After Upper Brendan, the line crosses the river via this three-sectioned girder bridge.
Mama will think I'm an asshole, but I don't care. D-A-M.
Finally, the line terminates at Brendan, at this station here. This is, of course, the location of Brendan Docks. Brenham Docks is massive in the TV series. This is the docks that appears in seasons 2 and 3 and 5 onwards. Like I said earlier, it's a location that is never consistent in appearance, so you just have to accept that. I personally love the season 2 version of Brenham. Just add Cranky somewhere along here and you got a perfect Brenham dock set. A goods line to the China clay pit starts here, and it's along this that Bill and Ben brought clay to the docks to be loaded into ships. However, in Heroes, the clay pit is destroyed in a huge avalanche, and barring double teaming troubles, which could have taken place before Heroes for all we know, Derek is in BR Green, which means it would have been around the same time timeline-wise. Bill and Ben haven't been seen working at it since. It seems they were relocated to Farquhar Quarry indefinitely until the clay pits were reopened, as they are always seen there with Mavis for the remainder of the model series. It is seen again in the CGI series, but like I said before, different canons. So since the clay pits never reopened in the classic series, I have the line to it marked as closed. Alrighty, now let's transition over to the Peel Godric branch. This is going to be a fun one.
Peel Godric, okay, P-O. Peel Godric.
So my vision of the branch of the show is wildly different to how it's portrayed in Audrey's universe. In the Railway series canon, this line is electrified and is run by a fleet of electric engines. They're never seen in the books and are only mentioned once. In the TV series, the Peel Godric line is a single-track goods line. Just like on Audrey's map, the line branches off at Kildane and heads north through the valley between the two mountain ranges. The first stop is this station, the Kronk we see in the show.
Cronk Abbey.
Here's my justification. On Audrey's map, there's a small village in this area.
Abbey. Wait. No, or change it real quick. 1, 2. What? I don't know. Rosie Street? No. We'll change it real quick so I can, so it won't look stupid on a map. Royal Street? And why not? R-O Y-A-L Royal Street. Then I'll add Abbey, then I'll add Kronk. Here. Then I'll add Kronk Abbey again. I'll add Abbey and Kronk separately. I just need to add Royal real quick so it won't look I did it on purpose. Because I don't want, the problem I have with these cities is I don't want them to, you don't want them to touch, right? I don't like certain roads touch. I don't want certain roads to touch to get the postmaster technically screwed up. White Pigeon? Yeah, like I really would use White Pigeon as a street name. A Pigeon Road would be a good idea, but A B B E Y. Abbey Street.
Area north of Kronk called Kronk Abbey. As the little station is called Kronk, it's technically still the same name, just sans Abbey. It's a single-track station in the middle of nowhere, a perfect fit for this spot. In the Pack mini-series, it reappears with a passing loop, which makes sense since this is the middle station on the line. Further up the line is that part that runs through the spooky wooded area in Season 5. Beyond that is Old Bailey Station, where Henry was spooked. In my headcanon, this crossing is actually a crossing for the now abandoned Mid-Sodor Railway, akin to how the Cambrian and the Welsh Highland cross over each other in Wales. I know that track is standard gauge, but I will get further into that in a bit. Beyond that is the area where Henry's trucks derailed, and then beyond that is the viaduct that was closed in Haunted Henry. It's never seen on screen, only mentioned. And above that is the line's terminus at Peel Godric, aka the station by the lake.
Yeah, I broke, then Kronk right here. Okay, then we'll add Oxford, then we'll add Kronk. I'll add Kronk, C-R... O-N-K. O-N-K. A couple of streets I'm going to add these S's and giggles.
Engine was taking a goods train to the station by the lake.
Peel Godric is only seen in the hit era, I believe.
Peel. Peel. E-E-L. Peel Street. P-E-E-L. Peel Street. If you live on Peel Street, you're not warning. Peel Street? Yeah, why not Peel Street? Shit, I hate when that happens. Peel Street. Peel Street. Peel Street. If you live on Peel Street, there we go, Peel Street. Yeah, Peel.
Shown as a station raised above the town. Yeah, fine by me. The real end of this line, and the industry the line services, is the Sodor Ironworks, aka the Smelters yard. The iOS book says that Peel Godric has an aluminum works, which isn't that different from an ironworks. This is the dreaded area that Airy and Bert work, and the steam engines dare not to go. Metal and scrap from Croc's scrapyard and elsewhere is brought here and smelted down. In Stepney Gets Lost, Stepney took a wrong turn near Kildane and ended up here, where he nearly met his fate. Let's finish off the standard gauge stuff by looking over the final branch line on this map, the one to Kirk Ronan. The Kirk Ronan branch line is a recent development, and it was constructed in Season 5. In Season 8, Kelsthorpe was reconstructed as a bigger station to allow a separate platform for the branch line. The line splits off west of Kelsthorpe Road and gradually descends as it goes towards the ocean. Along this stretch is Mr. Jolly's chocolate factory, very inconveniently located at the bottom of a hill. I originally had this at the bottom of Gordon's Hill near Marin, but I thought that it was stupid for one of the main line's 3 tracks to just end at the chocolate factory, so I placed it on this line. The line then continues south past Rolf's Castle, as we see in Season 6. This is the castle Alicia Bhatti performed at. This station is stupidly called Tidmouth Bay in Season 5, and I don't get why. It's nowhere near Tidmouth, even on Sam's map, or even near water, so screw it, it's Rolf's Castle. I'm also aware that this and the prop for the castle Toby discovered are the same ones, but I don't think they're meant to be the same location. Ulfstead Castle reopens with a single track in front of it, while Rolf's Castle has a station building and multiple through tracks. Obviously the same set was used in Season 5, but I don't think they're meant to be the same location. It then travels past some farmland before approaching the town of Kirk Ronan. The line terminates here, at the beautiful Canopy Station. This is where Gordon infamously left his mark. And that, my friends, is the entirety of the standard gauge railway network. However, we are not done. We still have lots of narrow gauge to discuss. Let's start with everyone's favorite, Scarlet Railway.
Michaels has everything to create meaningful gifts and meaningful moments. Shop now at michaels.com.
I'm putting the heater on because it is cold in here. The way you get up there is by train. Hey. Wait a minute, this is Tyler Milton. Oh crap, what? You're not Tyler Milton, right? What if I was? Oh, for some reason, what? What's wrong? You're not YouTuber, right? You're right. Back into my office to do some more work. Hey guys, Tyler's back. Hey guys, I'm back. I had to get some night pants on because I am freezing in here. I mean, I don't mind being cold, guys. I like being cold, but I like to have some kind of warmth. Okay, so that I don't mind being cold or nothing. It's just that when my feet get cold, then I get problems. Tyler, where's your shirt? Oh, here's my slippers. Before I put those damn things in. I got stuff all over the floor in the house, which people understand it why. Clean, dirty clothes I have in one spot. It's just that I don't move. I mean, I do put them in a pile so I know where they're at and when they're clean. It's that I can't use my dresser. My dresser's just not safe to use. Scarlet Railway.
So I'm just going to preface this by saying that I really don't like how the Scarlet Railway looks in Season 6 onwards. Season 6 is okay because they didn't stray too far, but 7 onwards just feels like a completely different railway to the comfy one introduced in 4. For the sake of keeping my head from exploding, all of the locations on this map are only Seasons 4 and 5. So naturally we'll start at Croven's Gate, the terminus for the Scarlet Railway. The sheds for the engines are here just behind the station. The station itself is where the narrow gauge meets standard gauge. Departing the station, the line curves. There's a small junction here where a short line spurs off. The line goes through this tunnel and into this industrial yard. This is the facility where slate and stone from the quarry are cut and transferred to standard gauge trucks to be taken elsewhere. In the books, the Scarlet engine sheds are on a raised wharf where slate is loaded into the standard gauge trucks. Obviously, that's not present in the TV series, so there has to be some area where these transfers happen. It was in this yard that Boulder destroyed an engine shed. Back to the main line. The line curves past farmland where Sir Handel was halted by sheep. Then there's another junction that forms the loop line back to Croven's Gate for returning trains, explaining why they always come past the sheds and into the station in the same direction they departed from. In aerial shots, we can see the line keeps going past the sheds in the distance. The first stop on the line is Crosby.
My dick hurts so bad that it'd be funny if I could actually say that. Oh crap, I did say on camera, but my dick doesn't hurt. I'm just joking to people.
Kirk, I hope I'm saying that right. Before it is a bit of line that runs along a retaining wall, and where Duncan derailed himself rock and rolling. After Crosby Current, the line travels along the road for a short bit before crossing over it. This is where Sir Handel and George faced off. The railway crosses the river for the first time and heads up towards
Glennock. Glennock. Like I said, guys, I'm just using the street names for fun.
Glennock is this pretty station hidden in the trees. After Glennock, the line starts to climb into the mountains and enters the forest of the Scarlet Valley. In this forest is the little halt for the picnic area, and then the line crosses the river again over this bridge. Not long after that, the forest ends, and the line traverses through open fields, nowhere near the road. It was on this
L-O.
this loneliest part of the line, Reneus's Valve here jammed. A little further ahead is another bridge. This is the bridge that was washed away in Special Fund. Right after the bridge is Reneus Tunnel.
Scarlet C. C. N-N-E-L. Reneus Tunnel. We're trying to get the circles of tunnel.
Tunnel. In this tunnel, Peter Sam got his funnel knocked off, and Duncan got stuck at the other end of it. We're high in the hills now and start.
Reneus C.
Starting to reach civilization again. The next stop is Reneus, the station by the waterfall. A little engine shed is located.
Reneus C.
Here, the line splits in two to create a loop here.
Reneus! Help a great bartender later. Put hero screening. No, I'm not going to need to.
The left line goes to Lakeside, and the right to Scarlet. We'll go left. The line takes us to the Big Lake, where it crosses it via a stone causeway. The ruins of Reneus Castle are here. Lakeside is the next station. Peter Sam left the refreshment lady behind here. Leaving Lakeside, the line goes around the lake and traverses over the viaduct before reaching a Y. Continuing along the main line takes us to Scarlet Station, and it is here that Sir Handel derailed himself. Scarlet Station is also the point where trains going to the slate mine jeer off the main track. In trucks, Peter Sam left his coaches here and pushed his empty wagons up to the mine. The mine is in the mountains and requires some climbing to get to. The line travels over a gorge here via the old Iron Bridge, where Duncan was spooked by a ghost engine. The line continues to climb a gradient where Peter Sam's trucks ran away, before finally arriving at the slate mine. In the TV series, the slate mine is high in the mountains, and was also serviced by both the Scarlet and the Mid-Sodor. Back at Scarlet Station, there are two tracks that go in different directions. The one that goes left is the one along the main to the mine. There's another that goes straight, and I'm just going to say that the engine sheds from Season 6 onwards are located there. Man, the Scarlet engines sure do have a lot of sheds, don't they? I like to think that these facilities were shared by the Scarlet and the Mid-Sodor, which makes sense because the Mid-Sodor terminated at Scarlet. Engines crossing the mountain road on the Mid-Sodor could rest and refuel here before the journey back over the mountains. So that is the Scarlet Railway. Now, let's talk the Mid-Sodor.
Dang, it's
The
all
Mid-Sodor
right.
Railway might be the biggest change I've made to this map from Audrey's. It completely changes everything, but works into how the TV series portrays it so much better. As the Coley Fell Railway does not exist in the TV series, the Mid-Sodor was the main method of transport through Sodor's big mountain range. As evident by the several sets shared between the two railways, the Mid-Sodor and the Scarlet were owned by the same company and shared some of the same tracks, not dissimilar to the Festiniog and the Welsh Highland Railways in Wales. The Mid-Sodor had access to the big slate mine in the mountains and terminated trains at Scarlet railway stations. Scarlet Station is the terminus for the Mid-Sodor, as shown in Bulldog. Passengers would transfer here for Scarlet trains to Croghan's Gate. Special trains would sometimes run further, as we saw in You Can't Win, when a Mid-Sodor train ran all the way to Croghan's Gate. Leaving Scarlet, the Mid-Sodor travels right at the Y and into the mountains. It goes through this gorge with the slate mine operating above it. It was in this gorge that Scarlet got caught in an avalanche en route to Boulder Quarry. Speaking of Boulder Quarry, that was one of the many quarries serviced by the Mid-Sodor that was abandoned when the railway was closed. In Rusty and the Boulder, Topham decided to reopen the quarry to mine rock, and Scarlet engines were allowed up the old tracks to it. After Boulder wreaked havoc, Topham had the quarry closed again, and these tracks were again left abandoned. Traveling left at the junction continues along the main track through the mountains. This series of curves and winds is what makes up the mountain road. Near the peak is the tunnel, where Falcon derailed and nearly fell to his death. After the long tunnel, the line starts to descend, and travels past some locations marked on the Mid-Sodor map shown in Sleeping Beauty. There's a little halt for Elm Farm, which we never see on screen. And then after that is what is simply called Old Station. At this station was the main sheds, where Smudger was turned into a generator, and where Duke was buried. The area is now totally abandoned and left in ruins. The line would continue west until it reached the Peel-Godric line and crossed over it. On the other side is Old Bales Station. Now I know the track we see here in the show is standard gauge, and I know we technically see Henry on it once, but yeah, I'm not counting that. I love the idea of there being a crossover point between standard and narrow gauge, and this is the only place on the whole map it could possibly happen. I also love the idea of this track being totally abandoned, because later on in By George, they pull it up and pave over it. I like to think Old Bales Station was restored by the Islands Preservation Society, but isn't actually maintained for real railway use. After that, there's a junction. I tried my best to keep this part of the line as accurate to the Mid-Sodor map shown in the show, which is just the Isle of Wight Railway map flipped upside down. Heading south takes the line past Duke's Village, and then to its west terminus at Bales Bridge. Bales Bridge is never seen. seen on screen. However, we know it must be some sort of harbor. One of Sodor's longest rivers, the Hawan Ab, runs through here, and it's stated that in You Can't Win, that Falcon took the train home for the passengers to catch their boat.
Falcon took Duke's passengers to the boat.
I like to think a steamboat service operated out of here up to Godric and to the south of the island at Brendam and beyond, which, of course, all existed before the standard gauge railway was built. It's also called Bales Bridge, which if the origins of English names mean anything, means there is a bridge here, a bridge over water perhaps. In the other direction at the junction, through the tunnel, is the gold mine, which was shared with the standard gauge railway. I think it's pretty widely accepted that Bertram was a mid-Sodor engine. And that, my friends, is the TV map of the island of Sodor. The amount of time I have spent piecing together this thing is embarrassing. But what can I say? I love this shit. The fact there are so many inconsistencies just makes it that much more fun to try and piece together. It's like a challenge. If everything on Sodor was perfectly straight-laced and impeccable, there'd be no fun in trying to map it all out. Before they are inevitably mentioned in the comments, let me just go and acknowledge some of the locations I did not mark on this map because I still haven't quite figured them out yet. The sports field Halt. This has to be somewhere on Thomas's line below Ellsbridge. The cement works. I guess this could be on the Kirk Ronan line, or possibly near Brendam. Not totally sure. The coal mine in Season 5. Haven't worked this one out yet either, but I'd like to place it somewhere in the mining network in the heart of Sodor. The Pax Yard. I guess this could be somewhere on the Godric line, but again, I'm not sure. The beach station in Thomas and Stepney. This could easily be somewhere on the coastal run, but I'm hesitant to place it there because Thomas refers to being on his branch line in the scene with it. Thomas's branch line barely touches the ocean, so the only place I can really think it could go is southwest of Old Harbor on the harbor line. Does this even make sense? Still working this out. Stepney's branch line. My headcanon is that this is the Bluebell Railway on the mainland, just an alternate universe version of it. So it's not on this map. Just like how I retconned Rusty being able to travel to Vickerstown, I retconned him being able to travel to here too. The Three Bridges set. Yeah, I have no idea, guys. I thought at one point this could be near Ellsbridge, but even then it was a stretch. Misty Valley. No idea. Any of the locations in Magic Railroad. Guys, Magic Railroad isn't canon. Let's be real. So that's it, folks. I hope you all found this video informative.
It's only a great word to it. FOP.
A Ford built for you, by you. Get yours, built from the ground up with your choice
FOP,
of colors, wheels, and other available features
FOP,
specifically
okay.
designed for your Ford. Want a head-up display and escape? 5 scope modes in Bronco Sport, or best-in-class gas torque in a Ranger? You got it. And now an extra...
Hello, everyone. Unlucky Tug here, back at it again with more Sodor map stuff to talk about. Earlier this year, I made a huge hour-long video breaking down my map of the island of Sodor, as portrayed in the TV series, specifically the model era of the series. Before we get any further on this video, I recommend you go back and watch that one first, as what I talk about here won't make any sense without the first video's context. In that video, at the end,
I used your map video. Things gonna hate. Things are gonna hate ya. You think you understand? I think you understand it. Yeah. You understand? I think you understand it.
And I mentioned that there were some locations I hadn't quite figured out yet. Not only have I placed all of them on this new map update, but I've also added in a lot of the major locations from the later hit model seasons, and made revisions to some locations so they make more sense in the context as presented in the episodes. Just to give you an idea of how much work has been done on this since the last video, here's the old map, and here's the updated one. Lots of updates, and lots to talk about. I am currently working on a huge, and I mean huge, timeline video of all events in the model seasons of Thomas, and this map plays a huge role in explaining this fictional island's history. So before I make that video, I wanted to present the map in its current form and explain my reasonings for all the changes. And just like before, this is all just my own explanations for things. None of this is hard fact, so please take what I present here with a grain of salt. So, now that that's out of the way, let's jump into it. Go watch the first video first if you haven't already, and come back. This is your final warning to do so, because we are starting this now. Hartwick and Church Station swapped. I've swapped the station sets on Arthur's branch line, as the episode Happy Ever After states the wedding takes place in Hartwick.
At last, they reached the village where the wedding was to take place,
which would make the church station Hartwick, and the station Toby travels to in Special Attraction somewhere in the middle. It has no official name, so I have marked it as just Seaside Village.
Seaside Village. Okay. Seaside Village.
Bluffs Cove. I also placed this on our... on Arthur's line, as not to overcrowd the Little Western with a bunch of stations. This station only appears a couple of times in the later model seasons, with no real indication of where it is, so it's on this line. Helps fill in all that open space a little bit. I also added a tunnel on Arthur's line to account for the mountainy terrain in this area that makes up the nearby Misty Valley. Misty Valley. Yep.
Oh shit, I need that.
Space a little bit. I also added a tunnel on Arthur's line to account for the mountainy terrain in this area that makes up the nearby Misty Valley. Misty Valley. The episode Bad Day at Castle Lock states Callan Castle is in Misty Valley.
Lord Callan's castle is in Misty Valley.
So obviously the valley must be where the castle is. It makes sense that the area gets foggy, as it's near the ocean. Cyril the Fogman's cottage is located here. The Three Bridges. This was placed at the suggestions of several people, who all agree that this makes the most sense on the part of the River Arl where Duck's line and Toby's old line cross each other. The bottom single track runs along the river to the harbor, which makes total sense to me, as every time we see an engine on it, they're always pulling goods. However, for this to work, we have to retcon the top bridge having rails on it and just accept it as a road bridge. We see Bulgy on it once, so fine by me. The coastal bypass. Okay, this one requires a bit of explanation. I made the coastal run, aka Arthur's line, run along the northwest coast to terminate at Hartwick, and I still maintain that. I got some comments asking, why did Henry take the Flying Kipper to Hartwick in something in the air? And that got me thinking, where would the location of the crash in this episode be? The Flying Kipper goes to the mainland, so why would the train be going up to Hartwick? It makes no sense, as Thomas is in Hartwick collecting fish for the train at the beginning of the episode, and brings it down to Knapford Harbor so Henry wouldn't have to go there. The crash couldn't have been along that line, as it has to be somewhere before the main line goes inland. The Sam Wilkinson map tried to remedy this by having a secondary main line that runs along the south coast of Sodor. At first I thought this was kind of clever, until I realized it doesn't make any sense. Henry travels in the other direction in the episode, so this can't work. So it has to be somewhere on the west coast, but before Tidmouth, where the main line goes inland. So where on earth could this be? Consulting the Island of Sodor book gave me an answer. I only recently learned from reading that the original Knapford and Ellsbridge Railway had a track around the headlands to reach Tidmouth. These tracks didn't last very long as they were swept away in a storm, but I figured, why not keep up for the TV map? This track around the headlands creates a bypass to Tidmouth, coming straight from the big harbor at Knapford. Voila! It was on this bit of track around the cliffs that Henry fell into the sea. This line also has a perfect spot for the ever-enigmatic Thomas and Stepney beach station. The beach station in Thomas and Stepney. A bit of line has to connect from the big harbor to the coastal bypass, so I placed this station here, marked as Knapford Beach. It's just below the old harbor
Knapford Beach. Nah, I'm not going to Knapford Beach this
station,
city.
so technically has connections to Thomas's branch line. The sports field Halt.
Not
This is
good.
on a double-tracked part of Thomas's line, so it has to be somewhere before Ellsbridge. But it has to be after Dryaw, as Thomas goes through Dryaw to get to it in the episode it appears in. So I placed this after the bridge before Torreyreck. Crow's Farm Crossing. Missed this one before, but it has to be on the harbor line before Torreyreck. I placed the crossing here, just after this windmill. The express stops at Ellsbridge. This isn't a change to the map, but just something I wanted to amend from the previous video. Before I stated the express doesn't stop at Ellsbridge, but this is actually untrue. It doesn't stop at Ellsbridge going towards Vickerstown, but going towards Tidmouth, it does, as seen in Tenders and Turntables. So just like how the express only stops at Wellsworth in one direction when going towards Vickerstown, it also only stops at Ellsbridge on return journeys. Ellsbridge Junction. This also isn't marked on the map, but just a pretty regular location that I wanted to bring up. In the previous video, I mentioned that Thomas crosses over a series of points after Ellsbridge to continue on his branch line. I like to think this overhead signal box is the location of the split-off, just past the station. McColl Farm. Okay, this is a pretty significant change. In the previous video, I explained my reasoning for McColl Farm being on Toby's line and not Thomas's. But since I'm taking hit era seasons into consideration for this now, I figured I should change it. McColl Farm is now on Thomas's line, and I placed it in the open farmland before Maithwaite. The number of tracks shown here is inconsistent. I like to think it's only 2 tracks, and the one closest to the farm is just a siding for wagons to be parked at the platform. The abandoned mine at Maithwaite. Not much to say about this one, but just wanted to mention that this is now marked just after Maithwaite. The Arlesdale End extension to Ulfstead Castle. Part of the reason I moved McColl Farm was to make some sense of the episode Toby Had a Little Lamb, where Toby travels along his line as a detour to get to the farm when Thomas's line is blocked by snow. The episode implies that Toby's line reaches Thomas's further down, and while I think it's dumb that these 2 lines, which were entirely different railways before, somehow met up at some point, I don't think it's impossible an extension to link them occurred after Toby's line was reopened and made a part of the Northwestern Railway. After Toby's line reopened in Season 5, the tracks were extended and met up at Ulfstead Castle. In Toby's discovery, it stated Toby now regularly takes passengers to the castle, so it must be a part of his daily route. Arlesdale End also appears as a station with a through line in the later model seasons, instead of a terminus, which supports this theory that the extension was a later thing. The rickety old bridge. I moved this to the mining network instead of Toby's old line. The only reason being that the text says Toby forgets about it. If it was a regular location on his line, surely he wouldn't have forgotten. It's also old and dilapidated, which makes sense as it's a part of the old abandoned tracks to the mines. The coal mine and Miner's Halt. I marked this south of Ulfstead. I wanted the coal mine to be a part of the mining network in the heart of Sodor. Its connection to Thomas's line explains why Percy and Thomas are sometimes sent there. Henry's Forest. I saw some comments regarding the forest placement too. Previously I had Henry's Forest marked on the open area between Balladrin and Kelsthorpe. My reasoning being a giant forest makes more sense in an area that isn't super populated. However, going by Season 3 logic, the forest appears to be somewhere between Brendam and Knapford. In Gordon and the Famous Visitor, Gordon is seen going through Wellsworth, and then through the forest before reaching the viaduct, which narrows down its placement pretty inarguably. So I moved the forest to west of Wellsworth. The Flour Mill. The Sam Wilkinson map has this a part of the Brendam branch. I don't really know what the reasoning was for that, except for this one time we see Salty pass it. I guess that's why. There's no real indication of where this is in any episode, so it's on the Brendam branch. Yeah, why not?
Makes a little sense.
My cousin, he was making beats in his room, and I just happened to come over for the day. Ever since then, I've been hooked.
Speak English, don't speak gibberish.
The airport. I placed the airport above Kelsthorpe, as it is marked on several official maps.
Japanese.
I like the idea of the airport being in an area that has lots of open space for a runway, which makes sense. Most big airports are on the outskirts of big cities because there's no room in the city for one. And considering the airport was built very recently in the timeline, I highly doubt there'd be room in Vickerstown or Knapford for one. It appears to be in the open countryside in the episodes, and its 3 tracks confirms it is definitely somewhere on the main line. The Suspension Bridge. I have moved the Suspension Bridge to a much farther eastern location going over the River Hoo. Mainly, I have moved it because the
River
engines
Hoo?
were able to reach locations such as the airport and Kelsthorpe when the bridge was out and calling all engines. So moving it further east seemed like the logical move. The Cement Works. This is a fun one. The Cement Works is on its own line south of Kildane and Killabon. Yeah, weird, right? But hear me out. In Salty Stormy Tales, Salty collects Fergus from the Smelters to take him home, aka the Cement Works. The Smelters, aka the Ironworks, is in Godric here. From there, they travel down the seaside, going south. Unless the Smelters is somehow in Hartwick, there's no other place they could realistically do this. The Cement Works also has a backdrop of yellow cliffs that look very seasidey. Its weirdly isolated location also explains why we didn't see Fergus very often. And its close proximity to Kildane makes it easy for Patrick to load up on cement. Speaking of which, the Pack's Yard. This isn't marked, but just something I wanted to mention. The Pack's Yard is in Kildane. Kildane is a pretty packed city on this map, with a main line and 2 branches connecting to it.
Nope.
As a pretty busy inner city, to me it makes sense the island's major construction company would be based here in the center of the island. I would also like to amend what I said before and say that I do think the express does stop at Kildane. There's just so much here. Neville's Bridge. So I changed the entrance to the Godric branch coming from the west for this. There has to be some sort of connection to the branch line from the west side. How else would Henry have gone up it in Haunted Henry going forwards, coming from Wellsworth? So I thought, why not a bridge that crosses over the main line? In the episode Thomas and the New
The Melbourne Bridge. Yeah, why not? Melbourne. Oh shoot, I hope I didn't screw this up.
connection to the branch line from the west side. As a pretty busy inner city, to me it makes sense the island's major construction company would be based here in the center of the island. I would also like to amend what I said before and say that I do think the express does stop at Kilburn.
Wow, it's only six.
There's just so much here. Neville's Bridge.
Oh, it's Neville's, not Neville's. Neville's Bridge. Hey, Mom, can I ask you a question? Can I have sex? Mom! Mom! I think I'm not done, so I'm not there. Neville's Bridge was... This is going to be a bridge, so... If it's a bridge, it gets circled.
Bridge. So I changed the entrance to the Godric branch coming from the west for this. There has to be some sort of connection to the branch line from the west side. How else would Henry have gone up it in Haunted Henry going forwards, coming from Wellsworth? So I thought, why not a bridge that crosses over the main line? In the episode Thomas and the New Engine, Neville travels from Abbey on the Peel-Goddard line to this bridge, where he crashes and hangs above the 3-track main line. Good enough for me. The Old Quarry Bridge. Seems pretty obvious that this is on the Peel-Goddard line, somewhere above Crockett. Abbey marked this station as well.
Okay.
I hate how Abbey looks in the show. It's basically just Maron, but more boring. It has a bay platform, so it looks like a junction of some sort, instead of a middle station on a single-track line.
Kronk was better.
Regardless, it's a station in the show, so I had to mark it. The statue of the steam team is located here. The Mid-Sodor extension to Peel-Goddard. On Audrey's map, the Mid-Sodor Railway did touch Peel-Goddard via King Ari's Bridge, so there's some precedent to this, despite the Mid-Sodor being in a totally different location on this map. I have no sets or anything to refer to support this change, but it was made purely for timeline video purposes, so I'll explain more in that. Stepney's branch line.
Stephanie. Stephney. Stephanie Y. Stephanie Y. Stephanie Y, yeah. Stephanie Yellow.
Another major change from last time. As much as it pains me to say it, Stepney's branch line is on Sodor, and is the one to Narn.
Bluebell Valley. Hit that. B-L-U-E-B. Bluebell Valley. Yep, let's do Valley. V-A-L-L. Bluebell Valley.
Hornby. He collects passengers at Allahu, which I'm going to say is this set here, and transports them to the sunshiny holiday town of Normanby. The middle station is Bluebell Valley, where the line meets narrow gauge. The line is on the far east of Sodor, as far east as we can possibly get here, making him far away to the built-up parts of Sodor on the west side. Like the cement works, the line is hidden from the main line by tunnels, explaining why we didn't see Stepney too often. The line is also very short, only calling at 3 stations, which supports Stepney's complaints that his line is too short for a good run.
Everyone's been so kind, but my railway is so short and I do miss a good long run.
The Scarlowy extension to Vickerstown. As much as this one absolutely kills me, even more so than Stepney's line being on Sodor, the Scarlowy Railway at some point ran to Vickerstown. There's no way around it. In Rusty to the Rescue, Rusty explicitly says he goes to the same place Douglas found Oliver.
Where you found Oliver? You mean on the other railway? So, that's where I'll go.
Which was the exchange yards in Vickerstown. Before any other standard gauge railways existed, the Mid-Sodor and Scarlowy Company built tracks through the Bluebell Valley to Vickerstown to create a full, complete rail link between it and Peel-Goddard. However, when the railway to Normanby was built, the tracks from Vickerstown to Bluebell Valley closed, and when the Northwestern erected and built their main line, the whole rest of the line to Crockett's Gate closed. The tracks are disused now, and only Rusty is allowed to run on them as the railway's inspection engine. He came across them during his time repairing the whole railway while Scarlowy was away, and now sometimes travels along these for fun to go visit Stepney. Rusty is also the only one we ever see on these tracks, except for Scarlowy once, who was helping a rescue team search high and low for Duke. I'm sure an exception was made for that specific case. The Dual Gauge Tunnel. I relocated the Dual Gauge Tunnel north of Croghan's Gate and is a part of the narrow gauge line to Bluebell Valley. I think the #1 question I got on the previous video was, how did Bulger get to the yard with this tunnel?